Ma'am, I'm not getting the page which I saw yesterday. So what I'll do, I'll search after this meeting and will send the SS to you.
Okay, sure. You can just send the link to me. If you find the page, just share that link with me. All right, I'll see it.
Yeah, sure, ma'am, no problem.
Yeah, so now, yesterday, I guess Shweta ma'am only asked about string intern method. So I searched about it, and what it is, like in the easiest way, you can go to Geeks for Geeks or somewhere and read about it in detail. Is like, let's say you have a program where you are storing name of employees or something, and there's an employee named Amy. But in your program, you're using the string again and again, like in different places. So maybe for some reason, you have a really big program and you end up writing the string Amy maybe 50 times or something. You're running loops and everything, so that to make sure that the same string is not being written again and again in the memory, and it's not taking you like for no reason taking extra memory because it's the same string. You can use string in turn. What it will do, wherever that string Amy is being used, it will point to a single memory location in a memory. I hope you're understanding. Like you have this string Amy and you are, declaring it or using it in different places in a program. So to make sure that you're not using extra memory space for no reason, you can use string in turn, and it will make sure that if you're again and again using the same string, it all points to that one memory location and does not create a new memory location every time. All right.
Can you please pardon, ma'am?
Yeah, so if you guys can like see the screen, you guys can read this line. It's like very simple. Say by applying string in turn on a couple of strings will ensure that all strings have the same contents, which have the same contents. All right, having the same contents, they share the same memory location. So if there's different strings whose data, the content is same. Like if I have a string named employee name, that is Amy, and then I have a separate string which is called string employee, and it's also Amy, and then I have another one, maybe string name, maybe in like a different part of the program where I'm printing the maybe the receipt or something, or the pay slip, and I again have a string name and it has the value Amy. So I can use string dot intern to make sure that all of these different strings which have the same value, it is the same value, there's no different value, right? It's just Amy, and we are for no reason storing this same Amy string in different memory location, using more memory for no reason. So we can use string dot intern, and will make sure that all of these strings point to the same memory location. So what it will do is there will be only one Amy in the memory, and all of these different strings will be pointing to that memory location, and we'll be getting data from that memory location only. Is it kind of clear now? You guys can read what's written on the screen. I think it's written a very simple language. If Amy appears 100 times by interning, you ensure that only one Amy is actually allocated memory. Allocated memory is only given memory. Only one of the Amy's. Rest everything else just points to that memory location. Points means will only use that the initial memory location. It will not create new memory locations. Is it clear now?
Yes, ma'am.
What about others? I hope you guys understand. You
Yes, ma'am.
guys,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, great. So again, as other people have joined too, I just want to ask: anybody had any problem? Anybody wants me to discuss something? Anybody wants me to go over something? Okay, so I'll just move ahead then. So let's try doing some more question on string. So we have this is called. Let's take this question: how to find the maximum occurring character in a string? So let's say there is a string, and you want to find the character which occurs, you know, the maximum times. So can anybody think of a way to do that? I'll give you guys a minute. You guys think about it. If you guys can figure out something, otherwise I guess we'll just see the solutions today instead of writing the code again and again. I'll do it. Yeah. So let's take 2 minutes, and I hope you understand the question. There is a string, and you have to find, the character. By character, like there's single characters, right? There is, like, let's say hello world is HELLO. So you have to find the character which occurs the maximum number of times. For, like, in hello, the maximum occurring character is L. HELLO. L occurs 2 times. So you guys need to calculate that. I'll give you 2 minutes. You guys can think about it and then we'll discuss. Did anybody figure out how we can do this? Hmm?
I'm not getting the logic behind it.
Okay. Yeah, so here it is. We're just gonna do it from here because it will take time for me to write it. This way, I think we can discuss more questions. See, so they have this. They it is called Java program to count the number of occurrences of any character on a string. So they are this is a program to count the occurrence of any character in a string. So they took the string, which is today's Monday, and they count number of A on the string. Okay, using Spring framework. Okay, they're using the use this instead of going. So they've used like couple of things, all right. So first, what they did was they imported this org.springframework.util.stringutils. So this is a framework which has like even more, methods and functions that you can use in a program if you import this. So they imported this, and then using this framework, what they did was they used this string utils, which is it's called string utils. It is same as importing scanner, all right. How you would import scanner, you will write java.util.scanner and then use scanner dot something in the program. Same way they're using string utils dot count occurrence of. So this string utils have a method in it which is count occurrence of, and then this is the way you give input A. All right, so what's the input? It's A. And this part, if you're like, oh, how do we know we write it this way? It is supposed to be like that. So this method or this function, wherever it is defined in this string utils class, it is defined as, first you have to write input and then you have to give the character that you want. Oh, by the way, this input is the string. All right, input is the string. First you give the string and then you give the character which you want to be counted in that string. All right, so this is how it is supposed to be written. If you write A first and then you write that string, it will not work. Are you understanding? So this is like a really easy way. This is where all the knowledge of how what you can use for a certain thing comes in handy. If you know you can use string utils, you just use it. Otherwise, you have to write this whole, a long program. So you just write string utils. First you import it and then you write dot count occurrence of, and then you give the string, and then you give the character whatever you want to be counted, and it gives you an integer value in return, which is the number of how many times that certain character occurs. Now to count, the maximum, the one that occurs maximum times, you can just extract each and every character of the string. We've done it yesterday using a for loop, and then for every character, when you do dot caret, you right, every time you do dot caret, you can put this function after that, the string utils dot count occurrence of whatever that character was, and you store it, and then you compare whichever is the occurred the most times, you just print that. I hope you guys like got the logic a little bit, right? In this program, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm. Great. So I hope, see over here they've counted only for A, but the question was you have to count for every character, and then you have to print which one occurs, maximum time. So they showed you how to count it for one. So I hope you guys can, think about it and figure it out how to count it for all the characters. You know how to get every character of a string, you know how to get the length of the string, and now you know how to count the occurrence of a character. So you can count it for every separate character and then compare them and print which one is like occurring the maximum times. So another one that I want you to know is this for each loop. So this is This is a for loop, but it is a bit different from the one that we have written. It is a for each loop. Over here, you can only use arrays. Now, we've not gone through arrays right now, but do you guys know what an array is in maths? Arrays, matrices, and stuff. You guys, everybody, like have an idea about that? Give me a quick yes or no. Like, do you know matrices or arrays in maths?
Ma'am, having idea about matrices.
Okay. So I got response from two people. Okay, so two people know. What about others? I know about arrays. Very good. What about others? Yes, one, two, three. Matrix. All right. Okay, you do. So, if you know what matrices are, array is just like a matrix which has a single row. Okay, so you have this like it is. So you have like this, and then you have different numbers. Okay, so you have like this. So this is an array, which is like a single row and multiple columns. That's what an array is, and string is nothing but a array of characters. You can say it that way. So what they did, that the input is the string. Okay, remember that they used the two-char array to convert it into a character array, and then they ran the for loop through it. So what this you can use for each loop with arrays, and you can just write character ch, and you do input. You guys actually, you know what? Just let it be for now. When we'll do arrays, I'll explain it to you, because otherwise it will end up being too confusing. So the one that you can use right now is this thing, or you can use. We do not do nested for loops, right? We do not do a for loop inside a for loop. So I'll show you that, and then you will get an idea on how you can actually use that to calculate what the program wanted you to do. So now, nested for loops are actually pretty fun, because you can actually use them to, print different patterns on the screen. So we're gonna try make one right now. I'll write it, and then I'll explain it to you.
From println, ma'am.
Sorry, what?
Ma'am, print ln.
No, that's all right. You use print ln only when you want to, print something in different lines. If you write only system.out.print, it will not go to the next line, it will print it in the same line. I'll explain you that right now. So you guys see like how we got a pattern over here. Can you guys see this?
Yes, ma'am.
I hope it's like better. Um, So yeah, you guys see this pattern, right? So how did we get it? It was because of we can use nested for loops. What do I mean by nested for loops? A for inside a for, and you can have as many as you want. All right, and the values that you give them completely depends on the logic you are going behind with it, like what you want to be printed. So all these values you need to, put your brain and think about it. So I'm gonna dry run this program. I really wish if I could, write and show to you. Um, okay, so I'm going to just do it over here. So it's fine. So now, all right, it. So let me try and explain it to you guys. It would be like try and kind of imagine it, or if you have a notebook and a pen with you, you can like try writing it down and seeing it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna write I over here and J. So we're gonna write what value it has. Okay. So right now, initially, what's the value of I? Can somebody tell me what's the value of I when the program first starts?
0.
We are trying, yeah, great. We are trying to run this program and see how we got the pattern. Okay, so we get an idea of how to give these values according to what we want. Okay, so initially it's 0 and it will be 0, and then 0 is less than equal to 4. So it will come inside over here and it sees there's another for loop. So what's the value of J? When the value of I is 0 and it comes inside, what's the value of J?
0.
Yes, perfect. It's 0. And then it comes 0 is less than equal to I. Perfect. You get this J plus. This will not be working right now. It will be like, okay, it's less than that. It will come inside. What we are checking? We are checking less than I, right? What are we checking? Less than I. So less than equal to I. So J is 0 and I is 0. So is 0 less than equal to 0? Yes, it is. So it will come inside and will print this symbol asterisk, and then this for loop will end. It will come over here and it will do a system.println. What does println do? It will change the line. Yeah, okay, so you understand that, like what will the ln do? It will bring it to the next line. System.out.print keeps on printing things in the same line. Ln changes the line. So if you can see it in the output, after printing one asterisk, it comes into the next line. Okay. So now your cursor is in the next line, and now it will go back up and it will increase the value of I by 1. When it increases the value of I by 1, it becomes 1, right? You guys understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Okay. So after making it 1, it will check, is I less than equal to 4? Yes, it is less than equal to 4. It will come inside over here, and then it will start again. What will happen? It will start again. It will again see J equals to 0 and it will make J 0. What will it do? It will start again, it will make J 0 again. It will check, is J less than equal to I? Is 0 less than equal to 1? Yes, it is. It will come over here, print this asterisk. The J for loop, this is the one that ended. It will go back up. It will increase the value by 1. So right now I is 1 and it will make J also 1. It will check, is 1 less than equal to 1? Yes, it is. Come over here, prints another asterisk, reaches the end of this for loop, goes back up, makes it 2. So what will happen now? This is I and j becomes 2. Now is j less than equal to I? No, it is not. So it will come outside and will come change the line. So it printed 2 asterisk and then the loop became false. So then it came to the next line. Now let me know if you guys understood this part.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now that's how the, yeah, anybody wants to ask something? No? Okay. So then again, as it ended, it will go back to this for and increase the value of I by 1. So I will now become 2. And then when it comes inside, j becomes 0 again. So now it checks again. For 0, yes, it is, prints the asterisk. For 1, it is. For 2, it is, prints 3 asterisk. Then when j becomes 3, the condition becomes false and then it will change the line and go back up and make I 3. So I hope you're understanding how it goes. So you can, use this method of running these loops in your head and then you can figure out what values you should be putting. Let's try making another pattern and yeah. So let's try, instead of asterisk, let's try printing numbers. So let me just see some programs or printing patterns and we can discuss that. Okay, so here it is they've shown a program where they're printing a pyramid, all right? Can you guys see this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so what they're doing is they've taken this class and then they have a for loop which is for your rows, all right? Remember it always, you can just remember it as RC. Upper, the outside for loop is for the rows and the inside is for columns. You guys over here, if you so these are your rows and the standing ones are your columns, right? So your outside for loop decides your rows. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows because we're running it from 0 to 4. 0 to 4 are 5 numbers, right? So there are 5 rows. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns because that also goes till 5. So like you can keep that in your mind while you think about the logic that the outside loop is for your rows and the inside is for your columns. So if you see in your rows, what it is printing in your rows. So in the first row, what do you see? You see these empty spaces first, right? This is an empty space, two, three, four empty space, and then there is this one asterisk, and then then there's like, don't need to care about the rest of the empty space, right? So first you need to have a space, another space, another space, another space, and then you need to print the asterisk. I hope you guys are following what I'm saying, right? Why do you need these spaces? Because you see this, here is where this asterisk is coming, right? So you need these from, this is yours where the screen will start. So you need empty spaces and then you need an asterisk. Did you guys understand about this logic about the empty space? Is anybody confused? And considering that you understood, so yeah, so they have this I 0, I is less than n is like how many rows they want. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows over here, you can have more. So they're taking it from the user. So They run it till n and I plus plus, and what they do, they print an empty space. They're printing an empty space, okay? And then they have this loop for the columns, and then according to that, they print an asterisk and then print a space because there's this space between over here. And then there's printing this extra line. So are you guys like kind of following what is happening? See, the best way, like I'll tell you, to do patterns and doing pattern programs is very good for getting strong in a for loops because it takes a lot of thinking and takes a lot of brainstorming over there. So what you could do is like you see this program and then this logic, try how I, write the values of I and j and try running it on your notebook. Like, okay, write the value of I and then write, okay, right now the value of I is this, then the value of I becomes this, and then when the value of I is this, the value of j becomes, so and so. So when you're going to do it, you're going to understand the logic behind it, how the compiler is reading the program, how it's working on it. So I will share this link with you and see there. This is the one that we printed right now. Okay, the right triangle star pattern. We were starting from, there's no empty space over here. In this one, you have empty space in the starting. So first you need to think about, okay, first in the first line, I need 1, 2, 3, 4 empty spaces. And then I need, okay, 3 empty spaces. Then I need 2, and then I need 1, and then I need 0 empty space. Right? So you need to figure out how you're gonna get the empty space and then you're gonna do it. So there's this and then there's printing the same thing but to the left side. So now then again these empty spaces come back. So in the first row you have 1, 2, 3, 4 empty space and an asterisk. Then you have 3 empty spaces and two empty spaces. Right? Are you guys seeing what's happening over here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so are you guys following? I hope you are. Then there's this pattern. These are like really, everybody who gets into Java does these. Like I've done it in my school. So I'll share this link with you. And you guys, actually, I want you all to go through these programs. Try running it in your system if you want. And if you're not, if you're being pretty lazy and you don't want to open the system and run a program, just take a notebook and a pen and try running the program in your notebook. And by that what I want you to do is write I, then write j and keep on writing the value of I and j below it as you read the program. So the first time the loop works, I is 0, j is 0, then j becomes 1 condition, then you can write condition became false, so it went back up to I and then I became 1, so j became 0 again, and then j went back up and became 1 and then it became 2, so condition became false. This way when you're going to do it, you will start seeing what the pattern is and how it's working, so you will understand it. All right. Okay. Okay. So that will be your, the major task for today, and this is something that I cannot check or something. You just need to go through it. You guys get stuck on any program, don't understand the logic, and ask me tomorrow. So this is going to be your task for today. Now I'm going to quickly move on and tell you about the while loop because you need to move forward. So as we have for loop, we have a while loop, and how while works is you write while, and then you give the condition. Let's say we had an int I equals to 0, and then we have I less than equals to 4. And then you have brackets, and then you can do whatever you need to do with it. All right. So system dot out dot print ln, and let's print I. Let me do it with print so you guys can see how it is different. And then you write, then you update it, you write I plus plus over here. So it's same as for loop, just the way you write it is different, and that's why it works differently a bit. So you initialize it outside the loop, like, but before it, right? In for, in the same line you write for, you put bracket, you initialize it, then you give the condition, and then you update it, right? So for while, you initialize it over here, and after that you write while and give the condition in these bracket, whatever the condition is, and then you write whatever needs to be done in your program, and then at the end you will update the value. So it's the same concept as for loop, just it's broken down into different lines. So you have your initialization over here, then you have a condition and you're updating it over here. So let's try running it. Over here, you guys see it 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And it all came in one line without any spaces in between because I used system.out.print and didn't use println. If I would have used in println, it would have been printed in different lines. See? Okay, so system.out.print also exists, and it's for printing things in the same line, and println is for printing it in different lines. Sorry, and yeah, so you guys got an idea about while. Do you guys understand this? Anybody wants to ask, like, is confused about how this loop is written? Okay, so I'll take it as you guys understood. So I'm gonna now try explain to you, like, this is like a cool thing you can do with while. You can break numbers down. So let's say you have a int n is equals to 234, let's say, and then you will write while n is not equals to 0, right? And then don't really remember. Let me try. Yeah. Let me try running it once, and then I'll explain what's happening. Yeah, perfect. So you know how with strings we did with the for loop where you yeah. So I hope nobody wants to ask something, right? Okay. So I'll explain this. How with for loop we did, with strings we use for loop to get each and every character of that string to perform certain action. Now, what if you have an integer number and you want to separate that number? Like you have 234, but you want 234 separately. So how you gonna do it? So you use while loop for that. You take the number and you put the condition while number is not equals to 0, right? While that number is not equals to 0, what you're gonna do is you're gonna calculate I is equals to the number, like you're just using I to store it. Okay, you take the number modulus 10, and what does the modulus return? It returns the remainder, right? So quickly, you guys in your head can do 234 divided by 10. What's gonna be the remainder?
4.
Yes, so I hope everybody visualizes that. Like when we divide 234 by 10, we get 4. Okay, and then that's the 4 we printed over here. And for the updation part, in the updation part, now updation is not only supposed to be plus, plus or minus, minus. You can do multiplying, dividing, and you can take out modulus, just whatever you need according to the program. What we did, we divided it by 10. So this will give us the quotient. So when you divide 234 by 10, what's the quotient? The remainder is 4 and the quotient is 23, right? So the quotient is 23 and then it will go back up and then it checks, is it equals not equals to 0? No, it is not equals to 0. It will come inside. Then it will again 23 divide by 10. The remainder will be 3. Prints 3 and the quotient is 2. So it goes back up and 2 modulus 10. The remainder is 2 and the quotient is 0 because 10 is greater than 2 and then it becomes 0. Now it is, the condition was it's not equals to 0, but now n becomes equals to 0, so it just comes outside. Do you guys understand what just happened?
Yes, ma'am.
What about the others?
Yes, ma'am, clear.
Ma'am,
Okay,
actually I
great.
missed some part.
Yes, so till where do you understand?
Ma'am, I was there till pattern matching.
Till pattern matching. Okay. So you see how the while loop works, right? I'll explain. So while you initialize it's same as for loop, but it's like broken down into different lines. So first you initialize it outside the loop. Okay, you give the initial value, then you write while and give the condition in the bracket, whatever the condition is. Then over here you do whatever needs to be done inside, and at the end you update the value. So the I plus plus part, it comes over here inside the loop. All right. And what we're doing is we're trying to, how with for loop we took a string and we were extracting each and every character of that string. Over here, what we're trying to do is we're gonna get each and every, individual digit of a number. From the number, we're getting each and every individual digit. We cannot do it with for, we're doing it with while. This is how you do it. So we took a number which was 234. We wrote while number is not equals to 0. So 234 is obviously right now not equals to 0. We came inside, we calculated n modulus 10, which will give us the remainder. So 234 divided by 10, the remainder will be 4. You can think about it. That's what it is. The remainder is 4. And then we printed the 4. So we got the last digit 4, we got the last digit. Then for the updation part, we did n is equals to n divided by 10, which gives the quotient. And when dividing by 10, 234, the quotient is 23. After that goes back up, it is not equals to 0. It takes the remainder again, 233 divided by 10, remainder is 3. Prints the 3. Then it does n is equals to n slash 10, which gives you the quotient. 23 divided by 10, quotient is 2. Goes back up, not equals to 0. Now the remainder, when 2 divided by 10, the remainder is 2. So you get the 2. And then the quotient is 0. When you divide 2 by 10, the quotient is 0. So it becomes equal to 0 and just the program ends over there. So I hope you understood.
Yes, ma'am.
Otherwise, you can, yeah. So it's not that difficult. It's pretty simple, and you can do a lot of things. You can create palindrome numbers. If you know palindrome numbers are like 2, 3, 4. The palindrome will be 3, 4, 3, 2, and they're like you can match. Like you reverse the number and then you match them. Like 1 to 1. The reverse is also 1 to 1. So what you gonna? It's like a simple program. I will give you for a task today. So it's like I'll explain it. For palindrome, what you do, you take the number, you calculate reverse of the number. So if I don't write this ln, I'm getting the reverse of the number, right? I'm gonna run it real quick. Um, right? You got the reverse of the number. You got 2, 3, 4. The reverse is 4, 3, 2. and you store this somewhere. Instead of printing it, you take an integer something, store that number in that, and when the loop finishes, after the loop is done, you will come outside, and then you can just check if this number equals whatever you just calculated, then that number is a palindrome number, otherwise it is not palindrome, right? So outside the loop, you can check if this certain number is that. Just to keep in mind another thing, you need to create a copy of that number to check it. So you need to create something like a copy which will be equals to n. Why? Because when you're making these, when you're updating, n is equal to n slash 10 over here, the value of this n is changing. You do n is equals to n slash 10. So n keeps on becoming from 243, it became 23, then became 2, and then it became 0. So after the loop ends, it's actually the value becomes 0. And so that doesn't, that's not what you want to check. You want to check it with the initial number. So you will make a copy of that number and check it with this. Do you guys understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So that's it for today's class. I will send you the link for the patterns. Go through those. Please go through those. Those are like pretty important, and you will understand a lot about for loop. And this is the program you need to do today is this palindrome number program. If there's something else, I'll let you know. But I think that will be it for your tasks. And so if you don't have any more questions, you can just start leaving the meeting.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes. I was uh, doubt about multi-threading, and it was in the main method. So in main method,
Multi-threading?
yes.
Okay, so you're talking about multi-threading. So all right, so we'll discuss. That's a separate topic, like completely, right? Multi-threading.
Okay.
So I'll do one thing tomorrow. First thing we'll discuss multi-threading. And so do you have like a specific
So
problem you
my
want?
doubt was,
Yeah.
yes. My doubt was in the main method. Main is a thread, and how it works in main method.
Okay. So I'll take
This is my
this
question.
question up. Yeah, it's a good question. I'll take it up tomorrow so that everybody else can, get an idea of multi-threading too, because I've not discussed it yet. Like I actually for the
Oh,
theory part, I just moved ahead because we do have limited time and wanted you guys to do more programming. So I'll take it up tomorrow.
oh,
All right?
oh, oh.
Okay. So I'll just end the session now. Thank you, everyone.
Ma'am, can I get the recording of today's session?